Good evening, I'm Steve Hensley. One Eastern Kentucky jail is working to strengthen the bond between parents in jail and their kids. WYMT's Dakota Makris explains how.
1, 2, 3.
A ribbon cutting Tuesday morning, marking the beginning of a children's reading corner at the Kentucky River Regional Jail.
Whenever Save the Children asked me about doing a grant to do something out here in our lobby, I was like, well, you know, that sounds like a great idea.
The jail received a $3,000 grant to begin the reading corner and start the kindergarten readiness activities like parenting classes in partnership with Primary Care Centers of Eastern Kentucky.
Sometimes people make mistakes. Sometimes people deal with addiction and make poor decisions, and they end up here. But that shouldn't mean that they're no longer a parent or they don't have an opportunity to interact with their kids.
Save the Children saw a need at the jail, saying inmates in the Women's Center would soon be reunited with their kids, and they wanted to make sure parents and kids were prepared for their next steps, creating the Wonderland of Hope project to give them a head start.
See the benefits, and we're hoping that it changes the generational cycle of addiction, abuse, and other issues that we see.
Although parents and kids cannot have physical interaction, the jail made it possible for parents and kids to have face-to-face interaction through glass instead of through a screen.
And tremendously effective and impactful for the children to be able to see their parents in real time and communicate with them. And we're hoping that as time goes on and the program evolves, that parents will be able to come out and interact physically with their children.
Hoping to expand the program to other jails. In Perry County, Dakota Makris, WYMT Mountain News.
The jail is just one of 10 organizations that received grant funding to support kindergarten readiness across the U.S. The Southern Environmental Law Center is suing the nation's largest public utility for failing to disclose full contracts related to proposed natural gas pipelines. The Tennessee Valley Authority plans to shutter its remaining coal-fired power plants and get more power from gas. The lawsuit claims when the environmental group sought information about TVA's plans, it received heavily redacted contracts. TVA says the redactions are needed because they contain confidential business information. The environmental group says TVA violated the Freedom of Information Act. Officials say a 2-year rehabilitation program at the Abraham Lincoln Birthplace National Historical Park is complete. The historic Knob Creek Tavern at the facility will open as a visitor center at the Boyhood Home this spring. The park says in a statement that it will be the first time in more than 20 years that the Knob Creek Tavern Visitor Center will be open to guests. It will be open on weekends in April and May, 5 days a week from Memorial Day to Labor Day, and on weekends in September and October. The building will feature exhibits about the Lincoln family's life while living at the Knob Creek Farm. Eastern tent caterpillars are returning to the Commonwealth once again this year, which can raise concerns for those that have pregnant mares. They are more prominently known in the horse industry after a large number of the caterpillars led to a staggering number of foal losses in mares during the mare reproductive loss syndrome outbreak roughly 20 years ago.
They are very hairy once they get bigger, and those hairs do seem to have an irritating effect, according to the past research, on the horses, which may have induced them to abort their foals.
Entomologists say if you see their nests in trees, you can easily take them down with a stick, and in some cases where the caterpillars have become an infestation, you may need to treat with insecticides.
Been a cloudy day around the mountains today, as we've seen plenty of overcast, and that's kept us in most places pretty cool. Others, well, we're on the mild side, and that's continuing into tomorrow. Outside right now from our camera, US 119 up Pine Mountain. The clouds continue this evening. At the moment, out front here at WYMT, overcast as we've been throughout the day. But notice temperatures a bit changeable as we work through the region. We're in the upper 40s to near 50 as you head into the Big Sandy, mid 40s as you head into Wise. We're in the mid 50s and even upper 50s and low 60s as you head into the Cumberland Valley. You notice warmer temperatures, those warmer colors in the bottom left portion of your TV set. That is warm air that's beginning to develop out to the southwest and move on in here. Few sprinkles possible tonight, but many of us stay dry. We don't have a whole lot of moisture in the atmosphere. It's off to our south and west. That's where the big weather maker is. You're going to want to go ahead and download that WYMT weather app. You see at the bottom of your screen, we already have wind advisories and fire weather warnings in effect as we head into the day tomorrow. You're definitely going to need that WYMT weather app because not only do we increase the cloud cover overnight, even more than we have now, we're also going to warm things up into the day tomorrow. I'll have the details on that coming up in just a few minutes. Steve?
Evan, thank you. The city of Pikeville is gearing up for its famous festival, the first since 2019. And officials say there will be some changes to keep in mind. WYMT's Jordan Mullins has more on the changes and excitement surrounding 2022's Hillbilly Days.
The city of Pikeville has not had Hillbilly Days since 2019, a festival that city manager Philip Ellswick says brings in an estimated 100,000 visitors to the area.
But we do expect more visitors to the festival this year. You know, this is the third year since we had our last Hillbilly Days, so people are excited about it.
But many changes have been made, including show times and closing times.
In the past, we've closed the festival around 6 o'clock on Saturday evening, but the City Commission requested that we leave that open later. So we have chosen to do that this year.
Changes are also being made to the festival's parade, adopting new rules that ensure better safety on or around parade floats after an incident in 2019.
The City Commission adopted a new parade ordinance in 2019, actually, following a parade in which there was an accident and there was an injury.
All in the name of safety, while trying to help every hillbilly have some fun.
That way, everyone has a safe parade. Parade's supposed to be fun. You're not supposed to have, people get hurt or things happen during parades that's going to knock people out of having fun. So we want to make sure it's the safest parade that we've ever had.
An Eastern Kentucky staple that's soon to be back and better than ever. In Pikeville, Jordan Mullins, WYMT Mountain News.
Ellswick also said the city has not yet received any major changes to COVID protocols, and the only precaution to be taken at the moment is placing hand sanitizing stations throughout the town. Hillbilly Days runs from April 21st through the 23rd. As the U.S. takes steps toward pre-pandemic life, like going mask-free, the new research could make some unvaccinated people decide to still get a COVID-19 shot. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention reports the risk of dying from the virus was 21 times greater for those who were unvaccinated compared to those who were boosted. The findings are based on information gathered in January during the peak of the Omicron variant. The CDC analysis reports there were 15 COVID-19 deaths out of every 100,000 unvaccinated patients, while only 1 out of every 100,000 vaccinated and boosted patients died. Officials also say unvaccinated COVID-19 hospitalizations were more than double than those who had had the booster shot. A milestone in the pandemic, this time one that's a sigh of relief and perhaps a sign of the next chapter. The last U.S. military medical team responding to the COVID-19 crisis wraps up its clinical mission today. For the past 2 years, nearly 5,000 federal personnel have been deployed across 49 states and territories. But now every one of those missions is finally over. More than 65% of people in the U.S. are fully vaccinated now, and COVID-19 hospitalizations have dropped near their lowest point ever. And now it doesn't mean our battle with the coronavirus is over and these teams stand at the ready, but there is no doubt progress is being made. For the first time in U.S. history, lynching is now a federal hate crime. President Biden and Vice President Harris held an event in the White House Rose Garden today, highlighting the importance of the new law. CBS's Michael George reports.
With the stroke of a pen, President Biden signed into law a bill making lynching a federal hate crime.
The law is not just about the past, it's about the present and our future as well.
The legislation was named after 14-year-old Emmett Till, who was kidnapped, tortured, and killed in Mississippi in 1955 after being accused of whistling at a white woman. The case was a catalyst for the civil rights movement, but an all-white jury ultimately acquitted the 2 white men accused of Till's murder.
The victims of lynching and their families and all of our society deserve that we recognize the crimes and the injustice.
More than 200 similar bills to outlaw lynching have previously failed in Congress. Under the new act, those who carry out hate crimes could face up to 30 years in prison.
I am elated.
Democratic Congressman Bobby Rush of Illinois, who sponsored the Emmett Till anti-lynching bill, says it's needed now more than ever.
After 100 years, over 200 attempts, we're finally making lynching a criminal act.
Earlier this year, the 3 white men convicted of murdering Ahmaud Arbery were found guilty of federal hate crimes. They received life sentences at the state level for targeting the 25-year-old jogger. Michael George, CBS News, New York.
The FBI reports the total number of hate crimes nationwide has increased every year but one since 2014. Well, here's something you can discuss at your next wine and cheese party. Wayward Spirit, a California company, is turning cheese byproducts into alcohol. Whey is the liquid that comes from curdled and strained milk. U.S. cheesemakers produced 100 billion pounds of whey in 2020. Wayward ferments the whey so that it can be reused as a drink. Ben & Jerry's joined forces with the distiller and is now using Wayward Whey in its Dublin Mudslide ice cream. Wayward officials say they've so far processed 500,000 pounds of whey that otherwise would have been wasted.
No way.
Coming up on Mountain News at 5:30, student loans are the key to many students' education, but do you and your child understand how they work? An expert explains the potential financial impact.
And it's getting more active around here as we head through this weekend. I've got the very latest on the way next.